All right, I think we're live. All right, I hit the button 4 times, and finally the thing went live. Hi, guys, I'm Tim Gillette, and this is the Tim Gillette Show. So welcome to today's episode where I get to actually interview somebody who I know. All right, we've had quite a few connections over the years, and it's just good that it finally found a date that the two of us could be together and record a podcast and hang out together. Today's guest, Scott Transue, which I know Scott going back, I want to say 8-9 years. I think I've known Scott and watched the progress of what he's done over the years. And it is just such a great thing to be able to see him on the podcast with us today. And I get to interview him finally and let you guys know the Scott that I know. All right. And maybe some things about the Scott that I don't know. Anyway, let's bring him up here and find out. Mr. Scott, how are you?
Mr. Gillette, my brother from another mother. How are you, buddy?
Oh, man. I feel like we've been locked up too long. What do you think?
That's because we have.
Yeah. That's probably why I feel that way.
Yes. Yeah. I want to just start out by saying something about Tim here. We met several years ago, and I was just at the start of my, if you will, my speaking career, and he was instrumental in giving me some much needed advice. And I don't mind telling everybody a little bit of tough love where it was required. And he was instrumental in getting my head correct, if you will. I just wanted to publicly thank him for several things he told me and advised me to do. He gave me some things to think about that I needed to think about at the time. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate it greatly.
Well, I got to say, I'm always glad to help. And that's part of why, people in that mastermind is I help people in the mastermind. That's what a mastermind is.
Right.
You know what I mean? As someone who's a little more seasoned, you reach down and help the people who are coming along. All right. And, now years later, I'm sure you're now the one reaching down in masterminds and people you're part of and helping others up. Now, I have my own programs and my own mastermind, but I'm involved in others, as I'm sure you are as well. All right. And you do, when you enter in, you're the baby. Oh my God. Are you making mistakes? And then sometimes those mistakes can cost you. And it's good to have, that's why we have mastermind. Good to have someone seasoned to come up and go, whoa. All right. I had Adam Ace, which Adam. Adam Ace reached down to me and went, hey, Tim, I'm going to tell you something that I see it's a real problem in your business. And Adam Ace gave me tough love. Coming from a comedian, that's very unique because that comedian gave me some of the most serious advice that changed the trajectory of my business. Had I not listened to Adam Ace, all right, who knows where I would be today? I would be someone working back at Starbucks,
Right.
And he gave me that advice. And, I don't have much contact or I'm not personal friends with Adam Ace, but till this day, I am so thankful that he took 5 minutes to go, hey, Tim, come here. We need to talk.
Yeah.
I'm sure now, Scott, I'm sure you're doing the same thing for people now. Sure. I know you've moved on to a couple other groups you're working with now, right?
Yeah, I have, definitely. Yeah.
So how many masterminds are you in now?
I am in 2 right now. 2? And one of the members of one of the masterminds, and I think it's one that you're probably familiar with, he invited me to be on his radio show next month or September. So I'm really excited about that. Local radio here in Vegas where I live. I have lived for the last about 5 years or so. So that's exciting. That's very exciting.
You've been in Vegas for 5 years?
I've been in Vegas 5 years. It was, let's see here, May 22nd, 5 years I've been in Vegas. Yeah.
It's interesting. How many speakers live in Vegas?
Well, it was both strategic and also climate. I grew up in upstate New York, and I'm sure you'll get into this with me a little bit later, but grew up in upstate New York, and trust me, my friend, the third time you drive through a blizzard going 5 miles an hour with your warning lights on, white knuckles, and somebody decides to scream past you at 20 miles an hour, you say, I'm pretty much done with this. I think I'm going to make a move here. Yeah. And I took the 5-day trip out from upstate New York, Binghamton, where I grew up. Spent about 15 years in Albany after that, once I got out of school, and took the 5-day trip out, and I haven't regretted it for even a second. It's been a wonderful, wonderful move.
It's interesting. My guest earlier this week was a girl named Dana, and she grew up in the same area up there, Binghamton. I grew up in Scranton. So we grew up hours from each other.
Now, there's something you always surprised me with, Tim, and I did not know that. I didn't know you were a Scranton boy.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I'm not. It doesn't mean I'm going to run for president someday. I'm just for the qualification there. All right. I know where I'm not qualified to do things. I'm just saying.
Well, you have my vote just for being 48 miles south of
I'll
Binghamton.
let you keep that vote. Yeah. You know what I mean? I want to say this is the smart Scranton boy to know what not to do. Yeah.
I think I might have trouble running for dog catcher, to be honest with you, boss.
Yeah.
So
I know
it's a tough one.
But when Craig Duswalt says that thing about, yeah, run for office, that'll get your name out. I'm like, I've worked on some of those campaigns with people. No thanks. I'll be the guy supporting the campaign, but I don't want to be the man on the ticket. No way. Yeah.
What were you doing January 15th, 1974? I think I was in pre-K. What else do you want to know?
Yeah.
So
74. So that means, all right.
I just gave my age away.
Yeah, no. You are just young enough to not know my town that I lived in Pennsylvania, because my town in 1973 became famously known in 73 and 74 for one thing.
You got me.
Patty Hearst hid there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
South Canaan, Pennsylvania. Patty Hearst hid there in the 1970s. And the house that she hid in was actually a house that my parents almost bought 3 years earlier. Instead, they bought one half a mile away. I've been in that house before and after she lived there.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
And in 2016, I spoke at an event in Scranton, Pennsylvania, but when I was up there, and I took my wife by it. And literally, you look at the house, it looks the same as it did in 1973. I mean, it's a rental house, all right? The people who own it rent it out. That's why. And they've not changed it since the 1970s. So, anyway. I always find it unique that speakers move to Vegas. And, like James Malinchak was in there. I think Scott McCain lives in Vegas now as well. Does Grant Cardone have a residency in Vegas, or is he still out of Miami? I don't know. I don't know Grant personally.
If he doesn't, he probably should.
Yeah.
Scott McCain was a big-time member of the NSA chapter out here for a long time.
Yeah.
Probably still is.
Yeah. I know Al, God, what's Al's last name? He's like a good speaker trainer. Huh?
Jensen?
Al Jensen. Yeah, Al Jensen lives there. Another speaker, great, well-known speaker, speaker trainer. You know what I mean? It's just, when I actually looked at it, but I love Dallas too much to go. But I looked at it about, getting, moving there because of the fact that, number one, you're closer to California. Number two, you can get a flight out of Vegas going anywhere, almost any time of day. Yeah. So, however, that was the last town before the whole world shut down. That was the last flight I flew from Vegas back to Dallas.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. And I actually found out the story. I'm a big follower of Mike Rowe. All right. From
I know Mike. Sure. I know Mike.
Mike was actually at an event there. All right. And he left a day after I did, and his flight got canceled. Luckily, because, he's known well. I think Caterpillar or something flew him home on their private jet. But bizarre.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember that day. That was like, I'm like looking at the Vegas airport empty. I'm like, I've never seen the Vegas airport that empty in my life.
Normally it's standing room only, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So normally.
And I didn't even want to gamble. I'm like, man, as bad as things are right now, I don't want to take a gamble in this airport. So
indeed.
So Scott, I mean, some of the unique things I've known that you've done over the years, all right, with Craig, I know you got the privilege to introduce Eddie Money one time.
I did, and that video is still on my website, and that was an experience, brother. Going backstage. Now, the thing about Eddie Money, God rest his soul, lost him way too soon.
Yeah.
The thing about Eddie Money is he's certainly a huge, well-known rock star, sold 50 million albums, something like that. He is the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet in your entire life.
Yes.
He's like, Scott, my name is Eddie. Good to meet you. I'm a normal guy. I just happen to be really good at music and singing, and I've had a lot of success. But I'm a normal guy. You look like you got it going on, and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I've been like worshiping you for like 20 years. And here you are telling me, I put my pants on the same way you do, boss.
I would have said to him, well, I was born in the 70s. My mom was a big fan of yours.
He would probably tell you
up.
he doesn't remember the 70s, but that's another story entirely.
But that was his line for opening up as, hi, I'm Eddie Money. Your mom's a big fan of mine. That was his opening line.
Oh boy. Okay. That's a good one. That's a good hook.
You know, I did. I've met Eddie too. You know what I mean? I've run a couple things, you know, around Craig's event and Eddie, and I loved Eddie. He was he was a down to earth guy, and I really loved him. And I only wished I would have got to see him more than I did. But I mean, good friends still on the radio show.
Sure.
Is Don, who was his bass player for a long time through Craig, we know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's and that backstage you have at events where you get to talk to celebrities. Because I've worked Craig's event, I'm always backstage meeting people, and I've got to meet Dean Cain that way and talk. I had a conversation with Dean Cain, I don't know how many times, backstage at Craig's event, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Dean Cain one time at Craig's event. I said backstage, I said before he went up, I says, I'm going to get out in the crowd and I'm going to ask you a wingdinger question that's going to actually stump you today. And he goes, you're going to give me a hint? I'm like, no, I'm going to surprise you with it. And when I surprised him with it, afterwards, I was backstage and I had to escort him back to his car. On the way to the car, the whole way, he goes, oh my God, that's the best question I've ever been asked. And I'm like, told you I was going to get you.
Yeah. Yes, so, indeed. Absolutely.
And I have that on my website is him interviewing me. He actually made a video for my mastermind and coaching clients when they joined my program. He has the welcome video is from Dean Cain welcoming you to my coaching program. So
I've still got that video on my website, and you can see me in, let's just say, my less experienced days when I was first getting going as a speaker and so forth. And I looked at it the other day and I just started laughing like, wow, you know, that's got to be 6-7 years ago now, at least. So cool stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, back then, you know, I mean, weren't you working a job and trying to get into speaking back then, or were you full-time speaking when you did that?
When you and I met, I had about 6 months prior, I had gotten a contract with a national seminar company, ironically enough, called National Seminars. And, you know, 1099 independent contractor. The story behind how I got it was kind of funny too.
By all means, we've got time. Tell the story.
We got time. What happened was, if you know anything about Toastmasters at all, the organization, which is public speaking, leadership, all that good stuff. I was at a Toastmasters meeting up in Albany, New York, actually Schenectady, New York, which is west of there. Anybody knows anything about that area? It's the capital district of New York. And this friend of mine in the Toastmasters group that I was going to, he brings me aside and he said, you want to get paid to speak, right? And I said, well, sure. I mean, yeah, that'd be a great thing. I think I could give it a stab. And he hands me this brochure for a speaker boot camp. Happened to be Malinchek speaker boot camp. And flew out to LA for it and took about 94 pages of notes in addition to the manual, and came back home, and I was on LinkedIn. I remember this very clearly. I was on LinkedIn for, I think it was on like a Monday night. And on my profile, I was doing some updating, and then I saw some recommendations to connect with people. And one of the connections happened to be a recruiter from this thing called National Seminars Group. I had never heard of it. I had never heard of this person. And something in my head, and one thing I always tell people is, trust the intuition up here. When you get flashes of inspiration, ideas, go with them. I, on a whim, reached out to this person and said, are you folks looking for speakers? And I got a response not even a day later saying, we're always looking for speakers. Now, remember, this is probably 6-7 years ago now. This is before COVID and all that stuff happened. So I said, well, what do I need to do? I don't know how to do this. And the recruiter said, you're in Toastmasters, right? And I said, yeah. And she says, well, what we usually do is we usually have you tape about a 20-minute talk that you do. It can be on any topic you want, provided it's professional. Don't get into anything really controversial or, anything of another kind of nature that people might take offense to. Keep it professional and send it to me. And I reached out to the club president and said, hey, listen, I got this opportunity to audition for this seminar company. And I need somebody to carry around, an iPod or whatever they were called back then. I think they were still called iPods or whatever the device might be. Can I be one of the speakers for 20 minutes and record my song and dance, have some not customer, but participant interaction. And I need to send this on. And she fell in love with it. She was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. We'd love to do that for you. So let me grab something over here on my desk in my office. It was on this very device right here. It's still on here. It's actually on my YouTube channel, my YouTube channel with my name on it. You can actually go in there and see the full 20-minute presentation if you want to see that from about 7 years ago. And I sent it to these people, and I got this phone call about 4 days later. And it was very urgent in nature. And Scott, give me a call back immediately. And I'm going, my mindset back in the day was, okay, she's going to tell me what's wrong with it. She's going to tell me what I can improve upon. She's going to tell me what to do better next time. That was my mindset back then. Yeah. And I called her back and I said, okay, you looked at the video. What can I do better on? And she goes, what do you mean? What can you do better on? And I said, well, I figured that's what you wanted to talk about. And she says, no. That was absolutely awesome. And she said, I'm personally inviting you to go to the next stage and get the contract stuff done. And we'd like you to fly out to Kansas City in a month and go through orientation and go on the speaking trail. So that's how I got into the business. It was off a whim. It was serendipity. And I teach business topics. I've always taught business topics. Like a lot of people, I term myself the sexy nerd because it's all about business and accounting and economics and collections law and QuickBooks and the IRS code and stuff that people probably really wouldn't do unless somebody sent them to see it or what have you. But I put my spin on it. And in the last 7 years before COVID hit, I'm proud to say I've been to 45 states, including my hometown of Binghamton. Spoke to 2 people in Binghamton on public speaking at the Holiday Inn. And been to Honolulu, got the Honolulu gig twice for QuickBooks. And it was I've given at least 3,000 presentations in that 6-year time frame. On the road 3 weeks a month, easily, sometimes 4 weeks. And as in that business, you get a cold, you get a sinus issue, you got to keep going. The show has to go on. And so doing that and loving it, and wound up doing QuickBooks full time for another company out of Dallas, by the way, where you are. And COVID hit, and I had to adjust, and we do what we have to do. But it was an amazing 6-7 years experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Got a lot of experience and such. And now I've adjusted and taken a little detour that I had to take. But it's all been good. It's all been wonderful.
There was 3 of those, wasn't there? There was 3 of those seminar companies. It was National, Fred Pryor, and what was the third one?
SkillPath.
And I think didn't SkillPath and Fred Pryor merge?
SkillPath and National Seminars merge.
Oh, SkillPath and National. Fred. So now it's just those 2 and Fred Pryor. So
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in that circle. Well, we both know Maurice Domino, right?
Sure do.
Yeah.
Sure do.
I know Jonathan Peters. Do you know Jonathan?
I do.
Jonathan Peters. I knew him from Vegas, by the way. Jonathan, like when I used to come by in Vegas, I used to call Jonathan and he'd come by my hotel and pick me up and we'd go hang out for the night. All right.
We actually did a little Q&A together again 6 years ago or so, because I also know Monica Cornetti, who came out of that seminar business. Yeah. So Jonathan Peters and I did a little Q&A on some business related topics one time. Had a lot of fun doing it. So it's been a great experience, no doubt about it.
How about Sherry Prindle?
I know Sherry. Sherry runs a abbreviated, if you will, if that's the right term to use, kind of a speaker training type of deal. I think they do it twice a year. I have not yet been to it. I'm looking forward to the chance to do it probably next year.
Yeah, I spoke at her. She does, I think it's like Star Marketing Summit. I spoke at that in the beginning of 2020. I spoke at her January 2020, and it was here in Dallas that I did that. But Sherry's been on my stage, and she was in my mastermind many, many years ago. So,
Sure.
and she was back then. She was doing, also doing the coaching certification with, I can't remember the name of the company. And I basically told her when she was there, I'm like, Sherry, you need to, she's having problems with it. I said, you need to leave it and create your own certification for coaching. You know more than this stuff than they do. You're their top person. You don't need to be working for them. You need to create your own.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Sherry and I partnered on a meetup group here in Dallas. She had a meetup group that she started in Dallas because her region for that company was Texas. Mm-hmm. So the meetup group she wasn't doing anything with, and at the time it was very costly to host, to hold the meetup group when she didn't do anything with her. So I took over ownership and paid the bills. And until this day, we're still partnered onto it. It's still her, and I don't know. One of us is director, and the other one's co-director. And we switch it back and forth every a couple of years. Like, she'll take over the group, I'll take over the group, but we both run the group. And I use it for my meetup groups because I was doing something to help her people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, I know I think she worked for Ed Pryor, but she was like the trainer for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, big time she knows, she's been around. That girl's been around the world. People.
Yeah.
So, very, very wise woman. I consider her a very, very good friend of mine, as Sherry is. So yeah, anyway, but
cool.
Yeah. And this person's just calling me for a second time, and I'm still not going to answer the phone because I'm on a podcast.
The world of an entrepreneur, my friend.
Yeah, they just it's I love it when they call you 4 times in a row, thinking, well, maybe they'll pick up this time.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, so.
He's sitting home from noon to 5 doing absolutely nothing. He's got time to talk to me. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Well, I always love the people who think that you're an entrepreneur. Okay, so you must have tons of free time.
If they only knew.
Yeah. It's like we're the people who are working when you go home to get a beer at 5 o'clock. We're the ones still working, dude.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you've had an interesting path. How many are before COVID shut down? About how many speaking gigs were you doing a year?
Oh my goodness. Well, we have to divide it between the prior and the national seminars environment, because those are all one-day events. Mm-hmm. They do a couple of 2- and 3-day events, but I was doing the one-day things. And then the company that I switched over to, that was QuickBooks, solely QuickBooks, those were all 2-day events. So if you just count, like, on average 3 days a week out of town for the first 4 years or so, different city every week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then home, and then usually home Friday afternoon, Friday evening. Times that by 52, times that by a year, 3 weeks a month. Mm-hmm. We're talking hundreds, absolutely hundreds. And then with real world training, it's called, with the QuickBooks side. Sometimes that was 4 weeks a month because I was filling in for people who had to bow out because of a sickness or a broken bone or something like that. But it has definitely been high hundreds, even potentially four figures in terms of numbers. It's been a lot. And every single one of them is a learning opportunity. Every single one's a chance to get better. I've had rave reviews all over the place. I've had a few people who personalities conflicted and what have you, and that's going to happen no matter what you're doing. But got a ton of experience, and it's an experience I never would have traded for. I wouldn't have traded for the world. Mm-hmm. With COVID hitting, I've had to adjust, like all of us have had to, and I'm switching over to some other things now. But and that's okay. That's the way it goes. But tons of experience in front of the stage and in front of groups on stage and stuff, and it's really given me confidence that I didn't have 7 years ago. If you had, that the person that you remember 6-7 years ago ain't the same guy you're talking to now. It's somebody who's
most great, people in the speakers field. They become growers. They're growing in their life. They're growing in their world. And you know what I mean? They usually aren't. Usually when you meet them 6-7 years later, they're not the same person. No. And most often there's been some revisions to their message.
Sure. Of course.
They grew. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
of course.
Something else that I was going to ask you is I had Bob Berg on a couple of weeks ago, and Bob said, like, in this new world, he doesn't want to travel anymore. He's going to do just virtual. Mm-hmm. What is your opinion in the speaker world of being a virtual speaker now?
Well, I think number one, it's where we're headed. Companies have figured out, for better or for worse, and you can make arguments either way on this. Companies have figured out that they don't necessarily need to send their folks out offsite to learn a topic anymore, like they thought they needed to prior to all of this stuff. Yeah. They can have them log in from their office, or if they are home, even on a day off, they can pay them to log in from their home, and have the trainer do their deal and have the participant on a platform like Zoom or GoToWebinar or whatever. That's where the training industry is right now, and I don't really see it changing really anytime soon. In fact, I've seen other speakers arrange things where, well, we've got an event of 300 people and such. Well, why don't I just get in front of a green screen and everybody joins in via Zoom, and I have my equipment and we just do it that way. And it's worked out well for many, many, many speakers. On my end, I am planning on doing a lot more Facebook Lives. I'm planning on doing a lot more webinars, whether they be recorded or live. And I am actually transitioning over to what we kind of lost with technology pre-COVID, and that is the personal connection. I actually talk to people on the dang phone now, which, it got lost in translation with technology and Facebook and texting and all of this stuff. And I think those who master the personal connection with other people are the ones who are going to be really successful in terms of information presentation or thought leadership and what have you. Because especially with what I am doing in the business side of things, one size does not fit all. And I can do a webinar for 25 people or 50 people or 100 people. That's all fine and good. But there's going to be 25 and 50 people who say, that was great, Scott, but here's my situation. And, you just didn't cover it. Not your fault, but you just didn't cover what I personally am going through. And that's where I have found, and I think you have as well, a lot of other speakers have found, that we can have people invest more in us to have access to more of us on a one-on-one personal basis.
That's why I have a coaching program. Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing in the tax world and in the QuickBooks world and so forth. It's I am having people invest. Now, notice the language I'm using. I'm not saying charge.
Yeah.
Charging somebody means they're spending money they won't ever get back.
That's right.
If I have you invest in me, I'm helping you to get a bigger return on investment for whatever you're doing. And I'm around as much as you're willing to invest in me being around. If you want me on speed dial, we can fix it. We can arrange that. Yeah. If you only want me around every March and send me your stuff and I take care of things, then you can invest solely in that. But I found a lot of people, more than I thought, have asked me, what would you charge me to have you available in July or August or September when I'm thinking about doing something? And I said, well, it depends on how much of my time you'd like to have kind of stocked, if you will, and calendar. So I think that personal connection, dude, is where it's going to be, and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
So you spent years, in the the seminar world, where basically you're teaching content or speaking on content that isn't yours. Are you now creating some of your own content and doing both, or is this new program or this new company all yours?
No, I am actually developing a one-on-one mentoring program. Okay. It's not self-paced online like a lot of them are, because the content that I am dealing with and the people that I am dealing with, that may help for a while. It's not going to help for very long. Yeah. All right. And I base it around what I call the good TSA.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
not the TSA at the airport.
Not the bad TSA at the airport, the good TSA. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't ask you to take your belt and your shoes off and get half naked with me. All right.
Okay.
I don't care about and I'm certainly not going to do the same for you. I mean,
Or
I don't want to make you vomit.
TSA agent follow you all the way to your gate thinking you're Tom Petty and want an autograph.
Absolutely. Well,
I had that happen to me. Yeah.
I know that's never happened to you. So that's good. I get I get mistaken. I've been mistaken more than once for Rick Moranis. And one of these days I'm going to play along and say, sure, $50.
I would buy I personally bought nottompetty.com. I would go buy notrickmoranis.com and put it on a card, and that's all it says. And just hand the card to him.
Aren't you that guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Sure am. How are you? Great to meet you. Let's take a picture. $25. Whatever.
No, I just I've had them where they just took a picture with me. All right. And like I see on Facebook and I'm tagged on it, right? Because they put it up on their Facebook page. And because facial recognition remembers my face, it tags me. All right. And they're like, look, I met Tom Petty in the airport. And their friends' comments, Tom Petty died a couple years ago, right? You know that, right?
Anyways, the good TSA. What's the good TSA?
Let's get back on the good TSA.
Let's get back to the good TSA. The T stands for taxation. All right. Or structuring. All right. The S stands for entity or entity structuring. The A stands for accounting. So taxation, structuring, and accounting. Mm-hmm. Now, that's all for most people. So what? All right. We have had a whole bunch of people because of COVID lose their job, get downsized, and they've gone out and started a business. Maybe one they've already had before or one that they're just getting started new. And they know a lot about what they know a lot about, which is I have product or service XYZ, and I know who I probably would be able to sell that to. But when you start talking about debits and credits and tax returns and LLCs and stuff, I don't know an LLC from an FBI or a CIA. All right. So what I do is, and this is one-on-one mentoring. It's not digital. It's not a website you go to and just hear me talk at you. That's not going to help you as much. We get together and we determine what your needs are. And I'm predominantly targeting the small business owner. Okay. I'll do the family with the 2 kids in the house and some investments all day long. That's fine with me. I do plenty of that. But I'm really targeting the small business owner, like somebody like a Tim Gillette, who's got revenue from various things, and they don't. I heard you on a previous episode. I've got to tell you this. You said to your guest, and I forget the name of the guest, but you said, I know how much is in my business banking account. I couldn't tell you how much is in my personal banking account. And that's true. That's true for a lot of business owners. They don't know some of this stuff. I am here to demystify it. The IRS code is 75,000 pages long. Let me take care of that. I'll tell you what you need to know about it. All right. So entity structuring, LLCs, they're the new rage. And what typically happens is, and this is the way it is, they've been to a seminar and somebody told them to get an LLC without necessarily knowing, okay, why do you need one? And the answer is it's half true about the need for an LLC. And I can get into that with a client privately. But the accounting side is QuickBooks and so forth, and I'm a pro advisor with them as well. So I've got the 3 prongs of the stool, and the 3 prongs of the stool, the name of the stool is boost your cash flow. Yeah. It's have money available when you need money. Don't overinvest in capital. Don't overinvest in equipment, because you can have all the equipment in the world. You don't have anybody knocking on your door to buy your stuff. Yeah. All right. So you've overinvested in capital. Let's figure out what you need. Let's figure out what structure is best for you. I do have to say, I'm not an attorney. If I think you need a referral out to a business law attorney, I'll tell you need one. I am licensed on the tax side, and I'm also certified on the QuickBooks side. I'm not a lawyer. Don't claim to be. Never play one on TV. Don't care about it. Yeah. If I think you need a lawyer, I'll tell you need a lawyer. But I can certainly help you on the QuickBooks side, on the tax side, and some guidance on entity structuring with that proviso of if you're really not sure if I think it's necessary referral out is fine. but had my best season this past spring I've ever had, and look forward to really bumping it up to many more clients as we go forward here. So it's been a switch, but it's been a good switch. So I'm very happy about it.
Cool. Because that was my next question was going to be, I mean, how was that trying to transition from, you know what I mean? I'm speaking other people's content to actually creating my own, because I know a lot of people that's a struggle doing it. And a lot of people listening in, that is a struggle list that they're doing is I'm great at, I can pick up anybody else's content and teach it. How do I transition to my own? So what was your transition? How did it go for you?
Well, it was, I had mentoring, and we sat down and we discussed this, and we did a little research and what's the market looking for. The single biggest mistake you can make in this area, Tim, I'll tell you right now, the single biggest mistake you can make when you're developing your own content is looking at it from your end, not looking at it from the buyer's end.
That's right.
What's the buyer looking for? That's who's going to pay you for this. It doesn't matter to me how good it sounds. Yeah. It matters how good and how much value it's giving to the person who's going to break out their credit card or PayPal or whatever the situation is, and invest in me so that I can help them accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. So it was soul searching to figure out, okay, what's the market really looking for? And it was a combination of looking at Facebook posts in different groups and message boards on other platforms online. And there was this need for people who were business owners, brand new or reinvigorating a business, and they were asking questions on Facebook that really only licensed folks should be answering, like LLC versus S Corp versus C Corp. What's the best one? That's really not a question for a general Facebook chat. That's more a question for somebody who knows what they are, knows the differences, and so forth. So it came down to seeing a lot of that and figuring out, well, through the years, I've gained some knowledge here, and I'm quite sure there's a customer avatar out there, ideal customer, that would have no problem investing in what I've taken 6, 7, 8 years to learn and to become proficient at. Yeah. So that's how I did it. And it's always about what the market is demanding. That's got to be your focus. You can develop the world's greatest digital platform with videos all over the dang place. If nobody's buying it, nobody's buying it. It sounded good to me. It doesn't matter what sounds good to me. So that's how I approached it.
And I've become a big fan of that TV show that came out a couple of years ago. The first season, not the second season, was called Undercover Billionaire with Glenn Stearns. And Glenn said, rule number 1, find the customer first, then find out what they need and go get it for them. And I was like, that's like, if so many people would follow just that advice,
that's right. Yeah.
They'd save themselves millions of dollars of, well, I need to create a book. I need to create a podcast. I need to have great. You need to have this stuff, but what are you doing? You know what I mean? To get it right. All right. Well, who's going to buy it? You know what I mean? And they never actually stop and look at it that way. Find the customer first and then ask them what they need. All right. And, there's a million coaches out there that say, well, what's your customer avatar? What's that mean? Really put it down in terms that you get it. All right. What do people want? What's the problem that somebody's trying to fix? Go fix it for them. We created our whole thing on over the years. I mean, I developed over the years, but mine became down to the simple, easy marketing. Exactly what you were saying is make it so simple and easy for them to get their credit card out and buy from you.
Right.
That's what simple, easy is. And that's exactly what you're saying. All right. What's going to make them what's going to make them get their digits up? As Laurel Langmeyer said, what's it going to take for the digits to come out?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The way I looked at it was, as long as I am giving the customer what they are seeking, I'm going to wind up on the podcast. I'm going to wind up on somebody's stage. I'm going to wind up doing all the other stuff that you see speakers doing or saw speakers doing prior to the pandemic, which they aren't doing nearly as much of anymore, unfortunately. That may or may not ever come back. Who knows? But if you give the customer what they're looking for one-on-one, I'm a big believer in if you're serving the customer one-on-one in your office when nobody's watching, you'll be ready to deliver when everybody is. Bottom line. I mean, it's absolute truth. Yeah. So
So, something, I mean, one last question I want to ask you before we do our wrap up here is something I always ask a lot of my guests. And that is,
Sure.
Back when I was a young 21-year-old boy, all right, a boss at a part-time job gave me job advice that turned into life advice.
Yeah.
All right. And it was, you run this job like you own the business, which made me then take ownership of everything I do in my life. When you were younger, did someone give you a piece of advice? Maybe it was, a parent, a coach, a teacher that was like advice at the moment, but it turned out to be life advice.
Actually, there was a specific circumstance where I got some tough love way back in my early 20s from an employer. And what they said because I was, I was one of those who was, I was a little cocky, but it was a cover for really terrible insecurity, actually.
Yeah.
And I was asked to do this on my job, and it wasn't in the job description. And I opened my big mouth and said, "Well, that's not in my job description." And what they told me, I will never forget. I've remembered it to this day. Scott, if I'm paying you to do it, it's in your job description. Bottom line, if I'm paying you to do it, it's in your job description. Doesn't mean I'll ask you to do it every day. Doesn't mean I'll ask you to do it regularly. But if I'm asking you to do it and I'm paying you to do it and you're on the clock, it's in your job description, my friend. Yeah. And that has stuck with me ever since then. Yeah. If somebody's willing to invest in you, that's money that they earned someplace. Yeah. That's money that came from something they did. And you have impressed upon them the fact that you can help them through their pain point or through their through whatever knowledge that they're looking for that they don't have. Yeah. All right. It may sound simple to you and I, and it probably does because we do it all the time. It's not simple to the customer. It's not simple to the person investing in you. Yeah. So no one pulling out their credit card is unworthy of your assistance. Yeah. And you can, and even I do free stuff. I'm not saying you don't ever do free stuff. I do free stuff a lot, but it's to gain exposure so that those folks who are willing and able to invest in me over the long term, know who I am and know how to reach out to me. So that was the single best piece of advice I ever got from anybody.
And it's almost, Scott, like it's like the advice. It's like, that employer invested in me. I want to give them I want to make sure they get a really good return on their investment.
Absolutely.
All right. And I remember one time, a job that I did never wanted to move up the ranks. And I was just there for a certain level. Right. And being asked to be promoted. I'm like, no. And my friend at the time, I said, well, they're asking me to be a manager and I don't want to be. And he goes, well, he says, I can see that. He says, you're giving them far more than what they're paying you. And you're not arguing about it. You just do that. And because of that, someday you're going to be paid more than what you give. And that's just investment, of time. And I love that how you put that way. And it's exactly what it is. You give and you give them a return on their investment. Well, someday you're going to get a return on your investment of giving. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. A rule that I live by is if you want to get more of anything, clients, love, relationships of any kind, if you want to get more of anything, be the one giving more. Yeah. Bottom line, be the one giving more. Yeah. And I try to live up to that every day. Do I succeed every day? No, but I try to do it every day. Yeah. So,
well, Scott, I thank you for being on the show today. All right. What is the best website people can reach out to you and connect with you and take this conversation to another level?
Sure. ScottTransue.com. I think it's on the screen right now. My contact information, my private phone number is on there as well. People can reach out to me that way. I'm also all over Facebook and LinkedIn. Scott Transue with QuickBooks Pro Advisor, tax expert there on my Facebook and on my LinkedIn profiles. Feel free to friend me. Feel free to just drop me a private message if you think that I can be of any assistance to you, and I'm happy to reach out and see what we can do together. Very happy to.
Cool. Well, Scott, before you go, I got a little game called This or That. I saw Sammy Hagar do it, and I thought I was cooler than him. I'm just saying.
Well, you are. Let's be honest. All right.
So I got 9 questions, this or that. We start off every time with the one Star Wars or Star Trek.
Oh, Star Trek.
Star Trek. Were you a Kirk or Picard fan?
I loved Captain Kirk because he he had this way of through the script being a little tongue in cheek when he had to be, and but also very stern as the captain when he had to be. So yeah, no doubt.
When it comes to the vehicle you drive, are you driving a car or a truck?
I'm driving a car, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to SUV.
You Texans are all over the truck thing, I hear.
No. Scott, I traded my truck in and I downgraded. You ready for this? I downgraded because a new truck was $80-some thousand now, right?
Woo!
So I decided to downgrade and get a Mercedes instead.
Well, that's one keynote address for you. You should be able to handle that. I'm kidding.
I know. Well, no. It's like people are like, you downgraded a Mercedes? I'm like, yes, the Mercedes was half the price of a new pickup truck. Which would you get? Like, come on, really? I'm like, I don't need another truck that bad. Yeah.
Right.
If you're riding in that car, would you rather listen to audio or a podcast or listen to music?
Definitely something that is of a CD variety.
Okay.
I got away from radio a long time ago. Okay. I can listen to radio at night when I'm home. I want to be feeding myself good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about when you go out to eat, hamburger or taco?
Oh, that's super easy. I'm a carnivore, dude. Hamburger. Oh, I'm a total carnivore.
I will gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. That was me growing up. Yeah.
It ticks my gal off to no end because she loves tacos. Yeah. She loves tacos. And I'm like, you go ahead.
Actually, I was at Craig's 4th of July party at his house, and he had a taco truck out there.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's a pretty good idea, actually. Yeah. Me. So yeah. How about beer or wine?
Miller Lite beer.
Miller Lite?
I'm a lightweight, dude. I mean, I can't. I'm talking to people. How you doing? Or Dos Equis works. We were down in Cabo back in May.
I had a neighbor when I lived down in the lake, and the neighbor drank that like Keystone Light, and I'm like, that's like water that's like has a beer flavor to it, dude. I'm like, if I drink beer, I'm drinking something that's like made in an independent brewery. It's got some kick to it. Anyway,
right.
How about when you go to the movies? All right, you a popcorn person or candy person?
I am a popcorn guy. I love the totally unhealthy but very delicious butter. My doctor doesn't, but I do. So,
Totally take that sucker down with all the good stuff on it. So,
right.
How about this? Would you rather be in a snowball fight or a water balloon fight?
Water balloon.
I'm done with snow too, but anyway.
Snow is one of those 4-letter words. The other ones I can't say on here, but snow is definitely one of those 4-letter words.
Hey, we got a little bit of that this year down here in Texas.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
We got a little freeze down here, and I told Dustwall it was his fault. He moved here and brought the bad weather with him. So, so we didn't have that stuff when you weren't here, anyway.
Well, we had an inch in Vegas about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was the first time in my 20 years of living in Texas that they ever shut the power off during it.
Wow.
22 years I've lived here is the first time ever to have the power shut off during it. Yeah, it's weird. Mm-hmm. So my next two are the controversial questions that I ask everyone, and some people get responses that are interesting and some not. So the next one, toilet paper, over or under on the roll at your house?
Over.
Over? All right.
Over.
I love that because, Scott McCain said to me, he said, when he was doing radio DJ, that question there, you can ask that question, the phone lines would light up.
I never would have guessed intestinal questions would have been part of this, but hey, what the heck,
Anyway.
It's your show, dude.
Last one, boxers or briefs?
Boxers.
Boxers. I figured you were going to be a boxer guy. So, see, the questions aren't that bad.
No. Hey, they could have been a lot worse.
I know. One more time, telling your website and how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. Right on the screen there, scotttransue.com. You'll see some footage of me speaking at different events, which I was happy to do. Social media, Facebook and LinkedIn. My name, and on both of those profiles, you'll see tax expert, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, stuff like that. Reach out to me. Happy to talk to you. And if I can be of help, don't be afraid to say hello and we can chat.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, Scott, I thank you for being on the podcast today and taking time out of your schedule to come here and meet our audience. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, brother. We'll see you soon.
Yep. To you, the audience, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Go check out scotttransue.com. All right. Say hi to him. All right. See if this is somebody who can give you things. And by the way, look up his video of him introducing Eddie Money, because he did.
YouTube, so baby, cool. With my name. YouTube, right there.
So in the meantime, guys, make sure you subscribe to where you get your podcast and subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Tim Gillette with the Tim Gillette Show, and I'll be back with another great guest real soon. Talk to you later, guys.